Okay. Can we just wait, or at least drop the news before 8 a.m. next time? Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you so much, as always, for indeed making this a part of your morning routines. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. And I hope you've had a really good week and you're ready for the weekend. Saturday, Sunday, we've got games of football. We've got Premier League action. We've got Arsenal in action. We've got a massive game on Sunday, of course, as well, which we'll be talking about in a lot more detail in tomorrow morning's preview, of course, as well. But good morning to you all. Thank you so much for joining me. Very much appreciate you being here. And I hope you've had a good week, as I say. Good morning to those joining us live in the chat box. We've got Ken, Barry, Steve, Brian. We've got Aidan and Peter, Maximius and Rob, Matt G, Black Shine, Scouse Gooner TV. We've got Mohammed, Martin, Amber Lee, other Martin and Claire and Grantley Poos. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for listening and for being here, for listening and tuning in, and for dropping a like, I hope, too. And subscribing to the channel as well. TGT family indeed assembling. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you happen to be. Do let us know. Let's not waste any time, I don't think. Let's just jump straight into today's stories. And we begin, of course, with the more reaction. Yesterday, we saw the news drop, David Ornstein with the exclusive that was later confirmed by Arsenal that Tim Lewis has left. And not just that Tim Lewis has left, but that there has been a significant shake-up at the club. If you want to see my immediate raw reaction to this news, of course, you can do so by going and listening to the end of yesterday's show. It's probably around 43 minutes or so, I think, into the press conference. So one to look out for if you haven't yet watched that back. But to read you through some of the announcements, because we didn't, of course, get to read through the announcement itself on the channel yesterday. We read through some of David Ornstein's piece. But they announced this by effectively announcing the managing director, or then managing director, Richard Garlick, being promoted to chief executive officer at Arsenal. And that he has now taken up this new position at the club as well. It mentions in the piece that Tim Lewis steps down from the board and has left the club. Cronky Sports Entertainment, Kelly Blaha, or Blair, not sure 100% on the pronunciation yet, and Otto Marley will join our board as non-executive directors alongside long-time KSE advisor Dave Steiner. They will bring the KSE family closer together and offer a wide range of expertise to strengthen Arsenal. Producer and director Ben Winston, a season ticket holder at the club for over 30 years, will also be joining the board as a non-executive director. This group will combine with our long-serving director, Lord Harris of Peckham, to bring diverse experience and knowledge from across finance, sport, retail, property development, media, and entertainment to support the club moving forwards. Josh Kroenke said that we are delighted to promote Rich to CEO after an incredibly successful period as managing director at Arsenal. Rich has made an enormous impact on all fronts as we continue to strive to win major trophies, be financially sustainable, and put our supporters at the heart of everything. At this moment, we would like to thank Tim for his continued dedication and commitment to Arsenal in a period of transformation and change at the club. He has played a pivotal role and ensured that we are in a great position to continue to deliver our strategy and our ambition to win major trophies. And in keeping with our desire to always move forward, we will strengthen our board with some exciting additions who will bring vast experience to the club from across a wide range of professions. The group know and love Arsenal and will bring a different skill set and expertise while injecting fresh thinking and energy to support us all to achieve our ambitions. The appointment of our new directors is subject to completion of Premier League's owners and directors test. So, yeah, that's the statement. And it's obviously a big moment in Arsenal's current setup, if you like. Now, I have got a slide about the press conference in general, which I'll probably come on to later, but I think it's probably appropriate that we discuss some of the answers at this point that Arteta made regarding Tim Lewis's decision. Well, the decision that whoever's it was, we don't really have the details yet, and as to this story, the reason behind it. But to be fair, we don't really have all of the details beyond Edu's exit either, which happened a long time ago. But Arteta said when asked about it, there have been quite a lot of changes since I arrived at the club. First of all, obviously, Tim is leaving, and I would like to say a few words because he's been someone that I've really enjoyed working with. I think that he has a tremendous contribution for everything that we've done over the last few years. And then, of course, on to Richard Garlick. Congratulations, obviously, because he's a massive role being in the CEO of the football club. And then welcome to the new members of the board. And hopefully they're going to make us better and help us bring ideas and support and make this club much better. Ultimately, it's a stance and Josh's decision. They've been incredibly supportive. So we'll move on again. Now, both myself and Simon Collins of the Evening Standard also asked questions regarding Tim Lewis. And I'll read you Simon's questions first. He says, it was a surprise that for a few people, the news about Tim and his announcement this morning. Was it a surprise for you? And how much were you aware of the changes? And he said, well, I was aware in certain terms, and I had various discussions with Josh, especially, and as well as Tim. It's not the first time that it's happened since I've been here. And again, incredible gratitude towards Tim, what he's done for the club and what he's done for the team. For myself personally as well, yeah, everybody's in different phases of their lives and requires different things. And that's it. We move on. Simon said, I think supporters will see a big change like this and wonder what comes next and what the future looks like. What would be your message to them? And he cut in to say, wonderful future. That's the only thing I can say. I'm so positive about it. Every time I speak to Stan and Josh and how willing they are, the projection they have, the vision they have for the football club and the people that we have around it, there's no question that big things are ahead. Now, just to give you a little glimpse behind the curtain, I had an idea in my head about what I wanted to ask before the press conference, which obviously got ripped up a little bit with the news about Tim Lewis. And I was thinking, well, what can I put to Arteta? I want to kind of touch upon the fact that he has a manager. You know, managers tend to be individuals at clubs that are what are changed. Managers are the most changeable thing at a club, you find, most often outside of the playing staff. But under Arteta, he is the consistent figure over the last 5.5 years. And there's been so much change around the club beyond Arteta, above Arteta, and around Arteta that I kind of wanted to put that to him. And we had a bit of a discussion. I was chatting to James Benge and Simon and Charles as well about this, about who I'd kind of written up a list, and I was asking them who I'd forgotten off the list, and they added a couple of names, of course, as well. So I said, you mentioned it's not the first time that this has happened to you, and some of us were trying to list the amount of executive changes that have happened. And we've come up with a list, which, of course, includes the late Sir Chips Keswick, Francis Kajagao, Raul Sanyehi, Ken Fryer, who stepped down from his role, Huss Fahmy, Vinay Venkatesham, Edu Gaspar, Jason Ato, and, of course, now Tim Lewis. What's it like as a manager to go through that amount of change in just 5 and a bit years? And he said, well, it's my first managerial job, so I don't know if that's a lot or very little. The experience that I had, where I can say that I've been very lucky to work with some wonderful people that I've learned so much from. And yeah, it's sad because we spend so much time together. You name very important people that have been a big part of the football club, of my life as well, personally, because you get really attached to them emotionally as well with their families. And yeah, you have to move on and maintain that personal relationship for sure. And then people have gone on to do various jobs. Some of them have been very successful in other places, and wish them all the best. And it is odd. It's a massive amount of change for a manager to go through and to deal with. And I think that it's certainly an oddity for a manager to have to deal with this level of change. But you have to say that the changes that have happened at Arsenal during Arteta's tenure, along with his tenure, has seen Arsenal grow, improve, become more competitive, and reach higher echelons of their ambitions, and hope to, of course, now take that next step, the last step for many, and reach that point of course, winning the Champions League or the Premier League. And for me, that's not the last step. That's just the next step. For me, the last step would be establishing and dominating across those competitions, of course. But we just got to take that next step at the moment, which is, of course, to do that. And whether or not this was a decision taken by Tim or somebody else, or a collaboration to come to this decision, we don't know yet. We don't have those details. And I'm not really one to speculate without the information. But it is a very interesting point. Now, I've got a limited amount of time this morning to take your questions and tackle some of this news, so I'm conscious of that. So we're going to swiftly move on, and we're going to talk about some of the comments made by Pep Guardiola. He's been speaking about Mikel Arteta and, of course, the ability for him to, win things. And he says, I want to say to my friend Mikel Arteta, if he wins the Premier League title, well, it will just be because of spending, not because he has worked a lot. Obviously being sarcastic. Like Liverpool, if Arne Slot wins it again, it will be because he spent a lot of money this year, right? Because it's not just Manchester City that's happened, right? So all of them do it. For many years, every club can do whatever they want. I know how we've been treated is completely different, but what they want to spend is because they want it. Now, this is obviously a classic line from Guardiola that he puts out quite a lot. It's obviously rubbish, in my opinion, and because Manchester City spent what they spent previously, it has prompted clubs like Arsenal and Liverpool, who have done so without, of course, breaking any potential regulations. And we still await, of course, the alleged financial breaches charges, 115 of those charges that Manchester City currently face. We're still waiting for the outcome of that. But so far, Arsenal, of course, have not faced any charges of that ilk, of course, as well. But this kind of saltiness that Pep encapsulates when talking about how much he has spent as manager, it's something that he has to just own. He has to just own this. It's something that if it bothers him, he should have a better answer for it. His answer for this question should be very much that when he arrived at Manchester City, a club that were already, of course, winning titles by this point, having spent a lot of money to put them into the bracket of Manchester United and Chelsea, who had spent a lot of money. Arsenal were not amongst that group. They were not amongst that group of huge spenders. Arsenal, since 2018 and the Kroenkes' full takeover of the club, have, of course, exponentially spent. But they have done so in order to basically play catch-up. Arsenal have been playing catch-up for the last 5 to 7 years in regards to spending in order to get themselves competitive. Because there's no way on earth they could have done otherwise. Any club that has won the league in the last 7 years since the Kroenkes took over, of course, has done so with significant investment. Now, the only anomaly you'd put in that group is Liverpool, who have done so in a self-sufficient way. And Arsenal, of course, wants also to be a self-sufficient club. And the spending that Arsenal have made over the last 7 years, 8 years potentially, if you correspond that to the lack of spending between 2006 and let's say at least 2013 at the minimum, but then also moving, I think, forwards until 2017, then it's just night and day between the spending and Arsenal's, outlay in comparison to those. It's just, wow, it speaks for itself. But Arsenal have had to spend because we've had to spend to catch up to clubs like Man City, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, of course, as well, who's, of those clubs, Liverpool, the only one who have spent in a self-sufficient way. But Arsenal, of course, have aimed to do that as well. Saliba spotted in training, of course. We're also hoping that the likes of Odegaard and Saka and Ben White will be close to a return. We've got comments from Mikel Arteta soon on that. But yes, Saliba back in, or not back, but continuing with his training as well, as are also there spotted. But jumping into that press conference with Mikel Arteta, where he was asked for the latest team news, he said on White, Saka and Odegaard, if there is a chance, it will be after tomorrow's session because they haven't done anything yet. So we'll have more information tomorrow. So still up in the air, but Arteta does like to leave things up in the air for these types of games. He was asked also about Marino and Gyökeres's head injuries, and he said, yes, they're fine. They will be available. And on Saliba and his potential for starting, he said, let's see. Obviously, he's been carrying an injury. He's done really well to be available for the last match. He's really pushing it. So we'll decide tomorrow what's the best start. He was asked again later in the presser also about Odegaard again. He was like, just White, Saka, Odegaard, you said the decision after tomorrow's session. Have they trained already? Or would that be their first session back? That question from Alex Howe from the BBC. And Arteta said, because everything has been modified so far for them, and there's still a few things to clear, and tomorrow we'll have more information whether they are part of the squad. They have a chance to be part, or whether they have a chance to be part of the squad or not. So no decision taken on those three yet, but I don't think I'd be particularly optimistic necessarily about that. A couple of things also, I'll just give you my other question from the presser. I said, and just to bring it back to football, you spoke before about the emotion of using Mikel Merino for his goals that he scored for Spain, and one of the reasons why, therefore, you started him against Nottingham Forest. With how Gabriel Martinelli and Leandro Trossard performed in midweek, does that now come into your thinking about harnessing that confidence that they got potentially for the weekend. And he said, yes, it does. It certainly does, because when players are in that state, I think they have to be used and they have to be recognised. But it's a lot of players, obviously, that are in a really good moment, performing really well. And that's what we want whenever we need them. I'm sure that they're going to be at their best. So I thought it was important. That was the only question, actually, I think, that I remember, and I don't mean to do a disservice to anybody else if they did ask about it, but I think it was the only question in the press conference about Gabriel Martinelli and Trossard and their form from midweek and what that could imply for the weekend. So it was good to get kind of a response on that front as well. There were questions about Erling Haaland, of course, as well, and kind of 11 versus 11, your defenders from James Bend. Your defenders have done a really good job of restricting that supply. I think it's 2 shots on target in the last 4 games. What has your team got right in taking him on? He said, well, there's a lot of things that you have to get right as a player that doesn't need much space, much time, or a situation to generate a big chance, especially when he's in and around the box. But preventing the source sometimes is the best thing to do, and we have to do that again. James continues by saying, and you've allowed 2 open play shots on target in your last 4 games. It's been a real hunkering down since the United match. Do you feel like this level of defensive quality is now showing? And is that the benchmark, or is it beyond what you were expecting? He says, well, it's certainly something about what we're doing today, what we have to do on Sunday and trying to win games. There are still a lot of things that we can improve, and we know that. We are very aware of that, but it's a very big foundation to achieve what we want. And I just want to go to a question from Phil Duncan from PA, who also asked about Miles Lewis-Skelly. He asked about the celebration of Miles Lewis-Skelly in, of course, the last meeting between the 2 sides. He says, while Lewis-Skelly's celebration this fixture obviously attracts quite a few headlines last season, are your players free to celebrate as they push on Sunday, or have you said to them to rein it in? Obviously, I think we all remember it quite fondly, don't we, about that Miles Lewis-Skelly celebration. But I think Arteta's comments on it are rather clear. He says, well, if that was done, that's it. That's part of it. They've been in a lot of celebrations and non-celebrations with the past from a lot of teams. That's it. We don't want that. Every experience. I think, well, we were actually debating in the press room about whether he said we don't want that. We think actually he said, that's it. We learn from that, or we've learned from that. It was a little bit, it was difficult to kind of distinguish what he said. But it was along those lines. We don't want that. We want to learn from that. Every experience is to learn as well. And we certainly learned from that one. So I think if it was up to Arteta, I don't think we'd see celebrations like that. But in the emotions of the game, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I know that managers and PR and all that don't really want that type of thing and headlines and stuff like that. And he's a young player and he's going to put an unnecessary pressure, and he's already got kind of a bit of reputation in the media and with rival fans, does MLS. I loved it. I thought it was great. I love it. I think it's fun. I think it's, if Haaland's going to give you stick in the other game and you go and score and beat them in a 5-1 win, why not? Why not go and celebrate? I love it. I think it's great. It's personality. It's fun. It's what it's about. It's football. It's just, I just wish players could have more license to express themselves. I think is, the most important thing that we need to talk about here is players' rights to express themselves, to have their views, their thoughts, their personality stamped on things. Just less of the celebration police, please. Less of that. We don't need restrictions on celebrations. But you should put restrictions on who on earth is looking at your data online. And you can add a level of restriction so that you can feel comfortable, protected, and secure and confident while you are surfing the net, perhaps on a public Wi-Fi service. And of course, you can do such a thing with NordVPN. And if you go to nordvpn.com/Gooner, you can get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or a 2-year plan. You get 4 months, of course, thrown in free on top of that for you, a 2-year deal as well. So what are you waiting for? Go and get involved. If you need a VPN service, it is the absolute best. There are no excuses when it comes to you surfing the net online unprotected, because you could have protected yourself with a service like Nord. Not only that, but you can change your geolocation digitally to wherever you like in the world under the supported territories of Nord, which is an absolute must in 2025 for those that are traveling. Indeed, plenty around the world as well. So go get it. Link in the description. As always, best of luck to the best of luck. Best of luck otherwise, of course, if you're not. But Certainly thank you again for the support, as always. Right, let's go to part 2, your questions and more, and a little announcement after this. A quick shift in mood just briefly. Stick with me for a second while I talk about something rather important that I think is a really exciting thing, while, of course, having something of a somber note to it. Because you know my feelings on mental health. You know my excitement when any initiative, of course, is put in place to help in this field. And when we're talking about something as important, of course, also as very sadly people taking their own lives, it is a topic I am particularly, attached to for many reasons, many that I won't go into. But Arsenal have announced, and you can read the full article on the Arsenal website, that supporters can access a specialised suicide prevention drop-in service for the first time on a match day at Sunday's Premier League fixture against Man City. It is a confidential service that will be open at the Arsenal hub 2 hours before kickoff during the match and 2 hours after full time. No appointment is needed, and the drop-in hub will give supporters the opportunity to speak to an NHS mental health specialist nurse at every Premier League match this season. The service is part of our work alongside the Premier League as part of the Together Against Suicide campaign, which aims to raise awareness of this important issue and provide a service for supporters when they are in the most need. According to research conducted by the Samaritans, there were 5,565 suicides registered in England in 2023, with men being 3 times more likely to lose their life to suicide. Our local borough of Islington has the second highest rate of diagnosed depression and severe mental illness in London. You can read, of course, the rest of that piece on the Arsenal website. But if you are perhaps there on a match day and just feel like you are, for whatever reason, struggling, questioning things, having thoughts that you're not comfortable with, I want to first say that that is okay. And you're not alone when having thoughts that you don't feel comfortable with. It is okay. But it's also important that you speak to somebody and that you get the help. Getting help isn't a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of losing your independence. It's not a sign of anything bad. It's a sign of strength, going to seek help, going to speak to somebody. And maybe you don't want to speak to a professional. You don't need to. But if you aren't comfortable doing that, please let me encourage you to go and speak to friends and family as well, and the people that care about you about any of these topics. But if you are comfortable enough to speak to somebody who is, and I can attest, having had therapy myself on multiple occasions, and having been skeptical about it, of course, in the past also as well, that these people know what they're doing. They make you see things in a very different way. They open you up to the realization of what you're going through so many times, and make you think in a different way and ask you questions that make you, a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, I think, to answer some of those questions. But it's important that we do face those things if we are to be better as a result. So I recommend you get involved if indeed you feel you need it. And of course, if it's the Arsenal Hub, can be found on 56 Benwell Road N77BA. Go and check it out there. But it's really great just to see Arsenal getting involved with this. The QR code on the screen as well will give you more information also. So yes, that's the confidential drop-in service with the NHS mental health specialist nurse at every Premier League home match at the Arsenal Hub. And it'll be open 2 hours before kickoff during the match and 2 hours after full time as well. What a great service and a great initiative. And thank you to Arsenal for doing so and making me aware as well, of course, of this project as well, and for encouraging me to promote it. Absolutely. I'm more than happy to do things like this because I think it's very important to highlight also. So yeah, let's bring the conversation to the questions, which I have probably about 5 minutes now to answer. I've got a big day of stuff going on, so I'm really sorry that I haven't got a long Q&A session today. But if you want to go and listen to a lot of Q&A stuff, we did quite a long section yesterday. So let me quick fire take on as many of your comments and questions as we can. And I can see plenty of your comments and reaction to what we just discussed there as well. And Sam Chester, who's been a member on the channel for 58 months, is glad to catch you live, usually a catch-up viewer. Love to see the efforts to support mental health as always. Thanks for a show. You're very welcome, my friend. Let's go to let's scroll up a little bit and see if I missed some of the questions first before I scroll down. Peter says, can we agree our defense has improved more than our offense? 1 goal conceded. We are on pace to allow less than 15 goals this season. Yeah, no goals conceded from open play so far this season is rather mad. Front Yard says, Tom, what's your opinion on Martinelli? I think regardless of performance, sell him due to inconsistency. There are far better players, in my opinion. I guess we'll have to see what happens at the end of this season. It's funny, though, that you bring up Leao when talking about inconsistency, because you talk about inconsistency as a problem with Martinelli and yet use a player who is regularly inconsistent also as a potential replacement. Dragan says, why are the PGMO allowed to point a referee who wasn't allowed near our games for 2 seasons after it screwed us over? And Liverpool fan on VAR for such a massive match as well. I don't know who the referees are for this game. Arsenal, Man City referees. Let's have a look. Ends 2-year Gunners absence. Stuart Atwell will be the referee for the first time in almost 2 years this weekend, following a controversy surrounding his last Gunners game. Atwell will be assisted by Konstantin Hatzidakis and Nick Hopton, with Craig Pawson as our 4th official, and Jared Gillett will be on VAR with Ian Hussein as the assistant. It's been a while since Atwell has refereed an Arsenal game, and perhaps for a good reason. I'm reading this on the Daily Cannon website. For anyone unaware, Atwell's last match refereeing was away to Newcastle in November of 2023. I don't think anyone needs any hints as to what happened in that game, but if you are still somewhat wondering, you will remember the Bruno Guimaraes forearm smash on Jorginho, and then, of course, the notorious goal which Joe Linton, without a doubt, fouled Gabriel in the box before Gordon scored to give them their win and Arsenal's first league defeat of that season as well. Well, I guess we will wait and see. Atwell, Gillett. It is Halloween fast approaching, and I guess it's come early for Arsenal. Jamie says, sorry to put a dampener on things, but when will the Premier League demand the improvement of the quality of officiating? It is as if the Refereeing Association says that we don't care what anyone thinks of us, in Jamie's opinion. I've always been saying for a long time that the quality of officiating is something that is sadly a bit of a stain on what is without a doubt the best league in the world. And it's something that needs to change. In my opinion, I think the VAR should be separate. I think the video assistant officiating should be done by a third party that is consistent across all games and should almost be somewhat anonymous, maybe, in how they operate, but should be separate. And it should not be the referees' mates that are indeed working with them on the VAR system. I think it should be a separate thing to make it work, because we've already heard stories about referees, sadly, letting emotion get into it and deciding to not send referees to the screen because they want to protect them, or I don't know, because they're mates. Very, very strange behavior. A lot of you getting caught up in the refereeing stuff now. Rand says, is there a wrong moment in life for coffee and tea? Yeah, no one should be having a coffee before bed. And I think it's mad that people do. My parents-in-law do, and they are mental for doing. Never understand anyone who does that. Putting caffeine into your body before bed. It makes no sense. Loss says, Arteta was unhinged in the presser following that. I was there. I'm the one that asked him several of those questions that led to the disgrazia. So I remember that like it was yesterday. It was only a few of us in there. It was me, Jordan Campbell from The Athletic. I think Ehsan Khan was there from the Mail. But there wasn't very many of us there from an Arsenal point of view. I can't remember if Simon was there from the Standard. I'm not sure if he was, but it was, yeah, wow. It was quite the presser, that. I remember it very, very clearly. Some good stories covering the club. Patrick, what's your score prediction and scorers? You'll have to tune in tomorrow, Patrick. We do our previews, of course, on the day of the game. So tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., bright and early, we'll have a preview show for you. Right, let's wrap things up there. I've still got to get this out on audio platforms and leave to catch a train. So thank you for listening. Sorry for the shortness of the Q&A section. We'll do a longer one tomorrow, I promise. But stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy yourselves, of course, as always. And I'll be back with you tomorrow for more detailed analysis and looking ahead to that game against against Manchester City, with a roundup, of course, of all today's Premier League action as well. And as always, up the Arsenal.